Welcome to Pique Your Interest, your go-to podcast for all things mortgage and real estate. Hosted by Tanner Greenwald and Tim Malaskis. We bring you expert insights to help you buy, sell, and invest with confidence. Let's dive in.
Welcome back to Pique Your Interest podcast. We are here with our two insurance ladies. We have Alexis and Paige. I'm going to let them introduce themselves and tell us who they're with. So ladies, go ahead.
Okay. I'm Alexis. I'm with the Jack Hutchison Insurance Agency.
I'm Paige. I'm also with Jack Hutchison Insurance. We're happy to be back.
Yeah, thanks again for coming back. So today we're going to talk about insurance claims. We have a lot of clients sometimes that have questions about them. So we decided to pull some of what I think is important questions that a lot of different people have come back with and asked. So first things first. Can you walk us through the typical process for filing an insurance claim? So if somebody called in and said, hey, I'm looking to get a claim filed, what is that? What happens?
I mean, so we, depending on, what time of day it is, whatever, if we're open, we always suggest clients to, give us a call first. That way we can at least give them sort of an idea of like what the process is, which we're about to explain. But, so we would suggest that if people can call us first, just so we can let them know. Often we can file a claim for them sometimes, or if it's a little more complicated, we can maybe help get some other things started. But normally you would call, you need to record your statement, give us a gist of like as much as you know of the damages, and then, whatever carrier. So we're the agent. There's the claims department. They actually handle the claims. You'll have an adjuster. They pay, you directly or whoever's like the contractor is. There's a lot of different facets of the company that kind of do that.
I actually, I feel like I'm in the claims kind of. I do the claims calls in our office. We follow up with them. So obviously if you have an agent, if not, get one. Call them first. It's always good to know if there's coverage in the first place. Because if there's not, there's no point of filing a claim. Yeah. You don't want to rack up $0 claim payouts on your claims history. Because when you go to shop for insurance again, they do take a look at that. It's not going to affect your current company, but in the future. So always call your agent whenever you can. Sometimes maybe, I don't know, if you can call the claims department. Some carriers have, consultant teams, or maybe they can guide you. Again, get an agent. But second thing that I would do is get an estimate. So some carriers have preferred vendors that they use. If you've filed a claim in the past, you can maybe use one of them, or you can just go with whomever you please. And then, once you do file a claim, the claims adjuster can then go over the process of, who they work with. Do you want to get an estimate through them? So then
I feel like that leads us into the next question.
Yeah.
Well, one thing before that, it does not happen immediately. So it usually takes 24 to 48 hours to get the information in, get an adjuster assigned. If there's certain damages, like number one, if you have water coming out of your pipe, you need to get the water shut off. So if you need to call the fire department or somebody else up front to immediately assist you, then you should definitely do that. Depending on the severity of the damages, they do try to have like a triage kind of situation. But, a lot of times people file a claim like Sunday at midnight, and then Monday morning they're calling at 9 a.m. and being like, well, I haven't heard anything. And you're like, well, your adjuster literally has not even been into the office yet. So stuff doesn't happen immediately. There are like restoration companies and certain things, depending on what the damage is, they can send out there sooner. But just 24 to 48 hours is a general time to have somebody assigned to reach out to you. So people often are upset if it's been like 2 hours and they haven't heard anything. So
I feel like you would almost want somebody to take their time to do that, so you know that you're getting
there's a lot of stuff on the back end that needs to kind of happen.
And sometimes, if there's a storm, there's thousands of people calling in to file a claim. So they do. Sometimes it can take up to 72 hours based off of the claim influx that the carrier has.
Yeah.
But call agent. to see if it's worth filing the claim in the first place, get your estimate, stop whatever you can to prevent further damage.
Yeah.
You're going to take your statement, talk to your adjuster within 24 to 48 hours. You want to send in photos, the estimate, kind of be prepared. So, if you want it done, you got to do your side as well. So the carrier reviews it and then submits a payment to you. Also good to know that, if the claims check is over $5,000, they have to send it to the mortgage company as well, because they also have an interest in the home.
Yep.
So they have to send it to the mortgage company, then they send it to you. So that can also take some time, and sometimes it's snail mail. So
that's
it
good
does
to break it down like that.
Yeah.
Because I don't think people understand that or see that side of it.
Right.
Yeah.
So they're just like, what's going on? And obviously that's what you kind of have the agent there for, to explain those things. So.
Right. Okay. Well, this all kind of leads us into the next question, which is, what are some common misconceptions homeowners have about what is covered by their insurance policy?
So I would say, your policy is meant for catastrophic losses. It's not meant for these, wear and tear issues. You have your deductible. If it's under your deductible, it's not worth filing a claim. So kind of knowing your policy, what it offers. And again, your policy's just not a warranty. It's not like, oh, my AC unit went up. Hey, can I get this covered? It just doesn't work like that. So I would say we get those a lot.
That's definitely in general. People don't really understand. They think they have their homeowners, anything that happens that they, will call it and cover it. Most parts of your house and systems are covered. It just depends on the cause of the loss.
Right. Yeah.
So, your AC unit might go up because lightning struck it. That's covered. If it's just older, it's 7 million degrees outside. Unfortunately, that's not covered. So a lot of times people are upset because they just assume that, they paying for it. I know it's definitely expensive, but, it's certain losses are what's meant to be paid for under the policy.
So I always like to word it when I'm talking to clients is it's sudden and accidental losses, not wear and tear.
Gotcha.
That's kind of how I would sum it up.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah. That's what kind of I feel like we're here for, is to kind of not like, I don't want to say like dumb it down, but then put it in normal people terms.
Right.
When you're talking to the company directly, you're going to get the legal mumbo jumbo.
Right.
You're not like here. We have a due diligence of the policy. We're an agent. We represent the carrier as well. But yeah, we kind of put it into normal people terms to be able to explain it to people. So.
And there is always a deductible. There's nothing that happens that there isn't one to be one. It's not really like auto insurance. There's no like at fault or not at fault. You have a claim, something's being paid out, you have a claim on your policy. So it's not like, well, it's not my fault, something happened. They don't really look at it that way like they do on auto insurance. So a lot of times people are like, well, you could potentially have like a surcharge, you do have a deductible. There's nothing the company can do to change that. That's just how the policy works. So, it's not really like you at fault or not at fault. So people get confused about that a lot too.
That's a good point too. Yeah. Because I could see someone calling in and being like, whoa, this wasn't on me, We know that, but like you still.
Yeah, we still paid it out. Yeah.
That's a good point. So what types of damages or incidents are not covered by the standard homeowners insurance policy? And if you want, you can even add in some that are to kind of give people gauge an idea of where that might.
So I would say number one misconception is probably flood.
Okay.
Honestly, anything that you don't specifically add onto your policy is not covered. Like if you're not adding water backup, so any sewage that comes from your sinks, showers, or toilets, that's not covered unless you add it. Jewelry coverage, there are certain things like endorsements that you can add for disappearance or breakage, but unless you specifically list it on your policy, there's no coverage. Anything, identity theft, there's different endorsements that you can add to your policy. An endorsement basically is just like any change that you make, anything that you add, any coverage to add. So like things like that, I feel like, you get a lot, or there's certain limits that go along with, water backup. I've talked to people where it's like, oh, my last insurance company did me dirty and they only paid me $5,000. So I'm like, if they just paid an even $5,000, that's because that's all that was offered. There's never a claim, I would say, that's just an even $5,000. Like that's just unfortunately just not how it works. So I'm like, all right, well, light bulb in my head, I will add 20,000 of coverage for you, not $5,000.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, just to elaborate exactly on what you just said, another time too, if you're ever like reading your policy or looking at it, a lot of it sounds like contradictory, where they're like, this isn't covered, this isn't covered. So you can add coverage for most things, but it doesn't just automatically come with the policy.
Got it.
And so yeah, the main policy comes with like stuff for the structure of your house, personal belongings, and like if you have other structures, a shed, fences, things like that. So that's pretty much what comes with the policy. And there are limitations on certain things, like she was saying. So especially like in instance of theft, like jewelry, cash, there's limitation on certain of your personal items, just because they can't know. You can't say, well, I had 20 grand cash in my drawer. And we're like, well,
You guys don't want.
we can't prove that you had that. So you do have coverage, but there's some limitations. Flood is never covered. You can't add that to your policy. Like FEMA pretty much runs most of the standard flood coverage. And then there is some excess policies that you can get, but flood itself is really covered mostly by like the government type insurance.
Yeah, and it's regulated by them. The rates are completely standardized through them.
Yeah, you can't really shop around. It is what it is. So you can call 10 different places and it's going to be the same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a good point.
And they come with certain limits too. So, I mean, your basic, I think max is like 250,000 that they offer the structure. Yeah. So that's also something good to know. You can do, like she was saying, excess flood if you want additional coverage. Some mortgage companies require it for your loan based off of your flood zone that you're in proximity to the water.
And the government maps that, none of the insurance companies have anything to do with that.
If you're in a flood zone, you're paying flood, like it's definitely flagged first thing when we start filing, I think. So flood zone is a big one.
Yeah.
I mean, different like zoning, I want to say codes, like zone A, zone B.
Yeah, so X is like the best, at least in, I don't know if every state, but definitely like the best. And then there's different letters for each kind of category. And then sometimes you have to get like an elevation certificate as well. So depending on the area you are, or if they've redone like the flood maps recently, sometimes, and that's an expense for the homeowner, like they're going to have to pay that themselves to get the determination. So that doesn't happen too often. Sometimes it's in their benefit because, you might be, especially around here, Annapolis, Pasadena, like you're close to the water, but you may not ever have an issue. You could be up on a 50-foot hill by the water. But, they need like a more specialized rate for that. So that can be a lot
and there's also
to pay up front.
If you are in flood zone X, where it's not required, there is a 30-day wait period. So you cannot just get flood that same day if it's not required. I mean, even, when you get your loan, they only let you do that because, we need this coverage by X date.
Yeah.
So that's the only time that you don't have to wait, because then people would just be like, oh, there's a storm coming by. Let me just get flood coverage just in case something happens. Yeah. So they have to regulate that in some way. For
settlement, that's a different situation. You're purchasing a new property. But if you already own it, even if you have an existing policy, say you want to add more coverage to it or change something, it's not going to take effect for 30 days after you call us and sign and pay for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how can homeowners ensure they are adequately prepared to file a claim in case of an emergency?
Contact your agent.
Know who to contact. I mean, a lot of times you talk to people, and I know especially when you're going to closing, if you weren't really had like a lot of insurance history before, sometimes it's like, hey, we went with whoever, suggested. Doesn't mean that's not a good company, but often newer people don't even know like what company they're with necessarily, or like who to call. So just even knowing like what company you're with, what their phone numbers are, things like that, your policy number, stuff like that. Most people are more familiar with, you have an online portal, you can get an app on your phone. So it's a lot easier to access stuff now, just so you have that information with you. And then just kind of knowing like what coverages you have, what your out of pocket is going to have to be, because that's just good. A lot of times they can work it out where they'll take it out of your check instead of you paying someone up front, but you do still have a responsibility. So, depending on the situation, just knowing like what you would need. One other thing we like to suggest to people, like, you don't have to have a photo and know every single thing that you have in your home, but if you do have like a fire or like a significant loss and a lot of your property is going to be affected, we try to suggest to people, like, keep photos of things that you have. If you have anything, you know, like you have a very expensive computer or things like that, even if you just take a photo of like the serial number or, you know, certain things you have. Some people have a lot of purses. There's a lot of shoes.
Me.
Yeah. So if you called and said, hey, I had 5 pairs of shoes, whatever, but if you call and say I have 10 pairs of Manolos, we might be like, well, do you have any type of receipt, credit card? So it's good for you too, because you're going through a lot and you don't want to have to remember every single thing you have. So we suggest to people just to do that. We'll keep it on file for you at the office.
Yeah.
You know, keep it on the cloud, whatever you got to do. That can really be helpful, you know, if there's a situation, just to get that payment back to you as soon as possible.
I mean, my dad has so much Steelers memorabilia. Sorry for the Baltimore area, but he is a huge Steelers fan. I am one definitely not, I would say by choice now, but obviously I didn't really have one when I was growing up. But he has a lot of memorabilia. So I went through just randomly, because now working in insurance, I would have never thought to do this before, and took pictures of all his stuff. You know, he has so many things downstairs that are just like, you know, in his little man cave where I'm like, they're gonna be like, oh yeah, this signed thing by Heinz Ward. Like, sir, like, just because you say you're a Steelers fan doesn't mean we even care to help.
Right. No, I get that. Is there any, so like, let's say somebody called in and they said, oh, hey, I've got an emergency. Like, what are some core questions you guys ask as insurance agents to them that, I don't want to say are like repetitive questions, but just like the core questions? Hey, do you have pictures? Do you have proof? Like, what are some things you ask so people can be prepared?
Main questions that we have to ask is, when did this happen? Around what time? Just an approximate. Some people are like going through their notes and everything. Like, it's just an approximate, just so I can file the claim.
Gotcha.
You know, what happened? Do we know, like, if it's a water loss? To the best
of your knowledge.
Right, yeah. If it's a water loss, where's the water coming from? Did you turn off the water? What was damaged? You know, carpet. Was there any drywall damage? Personal property? You know, sometimes going into preparing that, sometimes, you know, the pipe itself that burst is not covered, but the damage that it caused is covered. And then just, again, did you get an estimate already? If you did, who are you working with? Do you have their name and phone number? And then I just go on and kind of segue into, you know, Nationwide will be in touch within 24 to 48 hours. If you need anything in the meantime, contact me. So those are probably the basics that I can think of off the top of my head for home claims.
Yeah, and definitely for that too. You know, sometimes too, things will happen, like if people are going to be away, like we had people that are like out of the country for a month. Maybe having somebody that, if there is an issue while you're not going to be there, that checks the property for you, or if you did need something, that, you know, give them, say, hey, I'm not going to be home for 3 weeks, but you can call my sister or what have you. You as the policy owner and the homeowner are still going to have to do stuff on your side, but they will allow, you know, contractors to come in, people to come in if you're not going to be there, but it has to be authorized. So just certain things like that. Certain preventative stuff, it just depends on that you can do maybe before you leave. There's a lot more technology now with cameras. I mean, people put cameras in like by their water heater or pipes or other stuff. So, I mean, even if you don't have that all the time, there's a lot of stuff that people have now that's a lot more accessible that can just alert you like sooner if something's going on.
Some carriers offer some of that, depending. It's not all carriers, but like that monitor.
Water sensors. Yeah. There's different monitors and things that people can get to that can also save you some money or just, you know, alert
prevent
you
damage
soon as possible. Because, I mean, some people are like, I haven't been in my basement for a month, you know.
Yeah,
and
we
you're
have
like,
a lot
I don't
of
know.
that. Yeah.
So.
It just came down.
Or like, I've been in the attic 2 times.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Your crawl space underneath. Some stuff happens. Yeah, some things happen under there. We've definitely had somebody call in and, you know, he's down there just soaking up water and stuff, poor guy, you know, and then like replaced it on his own, and then it's just, you know, he's trying his best. We love the due diligence on, you know, the client side or anything that you can do to help, but, you know, definitely contact us. Sometimes I'm like, why didn't you call me sooner?
Right. Like you're causing a little bit more damage.
Just call me.
And just knowing emergency numbers, how to shut your water off, you know, how to turn electricity off. We don't ever want anyone being endangered. We definitely don't want you doing anything, you know,
going on your roof
can.
and putting up a tarp, or, you know, obviously definitely like if there's something that really happened, like do whatever you can. But I had a really nice lady. She was like, there was a storm that we had a couple weeks ago, and she was like up on the roof putting up the tarp. I was like, good for you, girlfriend. Her husband like was not there or something. He was like out of the country, and I was like,
gosh.
So yeah,
I was like,
don't endanger yourself. But I mean, same thing. You know, we've had people where like their door maybe get blown in or someone broke in. I mean, if you do need to call someone yourself, you know, right away, that's things that you can have reimbursed. So if you had a company put a tarp up on the roof, if somebody boarded up a window for you or a door or something like that, you know, that's things that can be incorporated. You can send in proof of like what you had done. So there's a lot of stuff that if you need to do up front, or it's like, I need this done like today, and it's just not feasible for that to happen in that time frame for the carrier to send somebody out. And oftentimes they can, but it just depends. You keep your receipts, keep photos of things, and then they'll be more than happy to reimburse you. I mean, the company will pay out what you have on the policy. Like, they're not here to try to stop people from, you know, getting paid for what they should have. But there's a lot of stuff where people could have gotten a lot more reimbursements for things, and they just, you know, didn't know or didn't keep documentation on it or anything. So,
and to play on with like the same day stuff, it's also nice to have an agent, because we do have contacts. Like, we have restoration companies that we deal with that we know will go out the same day, and we know they're, with our certain carriers, they are a preferred vendor, you know, so call your agent. They'll be able to advise you further of, you know, if there is a major water loss, you know, things happen. We've had, I don't know if I brought this up before, but like dogs get locked in a bathroom, they're gone all day, and they knocked the toilet out of whack. And the whole, you know, top and bottom floor got kind of flooded, and, you know, you come home and you're like, what? Like, call your agent. Same day we can have somebody come up, clean up the water, at least get it started. So you're not
we do have a lot of contacts
damage.
of people. And you're more than welcome to use whoever you like. You don't ever have to use who the company works with. Sometimes if you don't do that, it can put more time onto things.
Yourself as well.
That there's a lot of times where people are like, well, I had my contractor come out the other day, but it's like, well, the adjuster needed like this, and this form, and they didn't send it, or what have you. So sometimes too, there's a lag between like who you're using. Like, if it's a company that they're affiliated with, they can get the documentation and stuff communicated over,
and
directly.
They already know what to expect. So,
and you can definitely use whoever you like. But also, like, say you have somebody come in and redo your siding, and then you didn't like it, or they messed something else up. If you use your own contractor, that's on you to deal with them on your own. We have nothing to do with that. We paid out what, you know, we were invoiced, and if there's any other problems, then you have to do that yourself. If it's one of our companies, they have to guarantee it, you know, for life of the repair or whatever makes sense. You know, everything's not always cut and dry, but we can have a lot more control over like reaching out for you.
Just taking the hassle off you. Stress, time. It's worth it, you know? Yeah. So.
No, I find it's easier, I feel like, to work with the people that you guys have worked with for a while.
Right.
Like you said, you don't have to, but I've even with like car insurance and stuff, whenever I've had to put my car in the shop or whatever, they're like, you know, we can give you recommendations on who to use, who we work with, but once you go outside of that, like, not that we can't help you, but.
Yeah. And there's usually a long list. It's not like they're like, well, you're in Pasadena, we got one guy. There's usually 30 companies that you can choose from. So normally you should be able to find one of them that you could be comfortable with. But you certainly can use whoever you like. Just there's some things that come up where people are upset at us, and you're like, well, we don't really have control over some of these scenarios now. So that's just good to know for people too.
Yeah, that makes sense. Do you ladies have anything else to add about insurance claims that we didn't cover that you think might be like, I feel like they should know about this kind of thing?
I mean, I think we kind of hit on this a lot now. Stuff's more strict kind of than ever. So just to, you know, make sure, you know, not that you shouldn't file a claim. You definitely should if you need to. But if you're getting like $500 for something and then your premium is going to go up and then you have like a claim on your file, just to realize kind of like, or you may not have had a claim for 20 years and then you have two things happen in a row, which we see all the time. And the person's like, oh,
You're
well,
canceled.
now I have two
Right.
claims.
Yeah.
So just kind of think about that, you know, when you're filing things. That's pretty much.
Yeah.
There's a lot of carriers too to play onto why things are more strict. I mean, things are so expensive, inflation, you know, I could go on a rant about it. But a lot of carriers are going out and inspecting the properties. That's happening a lot. Just to make sure that it's in good condition and to prevent future claims from happening. So mentally preparing people for that. Because, you know, it stinks to have that conversation with people when they call in and they're so upset because it's like, well, this, and this is wrong. But it's like, they're trying to help. I know it doesn't really seem that way. But they also have, you know, their own diligence on their side, as well as you as a homeowner to make sure the property's in good condition. Yeah.
Another thing too that, you know, when we're doing, you know, quotes for people, either existing clients or someone purchasing, especially purchasing a new property, depending on the carrier, they have different regulations. But if I see a bunch of claims on a property for somebody and I'm like, I don't want to tell you like to or to not, but if this place has had 4 water claims, either the person wasn't taking care of the property or there's just sometimes it's just a bad situation with drainage, how things are set up. But I'm like, there's a good chance that you're going to be moving into something that's going to have, you know, there's some sort of issue. So sometimes I'll try to tell people like, hey, you might want to do an extra inspection on this or whatever. I mean, we're here to help out the person. And, you know, you just don't want... We've had people move in, especially like condos, which, you know, that's a little bit of a different animal, but where it's like, oh, well, there's been 5 water claims on this property in the past 5 years. So I don't know what's going on, but you may be experiencing money out of pocket and a lot of annoyance. Like,
and some carriers won't accept the property even if they weren't your loss. You know, we have to go, sometimes we have to call the carrier and they ask for things like
proof it was repaired.
Just anything that you can provide to show that the work's been done. And, you know, obviously sometimes you don't really have that, or they're going to ask for an inspection, you know, from a plumber or, you know, something along those lines. And that can prolong and complicate situations. So it's just good to know, because we do have, you know, when we're going to issue a new policy, we do have reports that pull through with the loss history. So yeah, it can be complicated, it can be frustrating, but.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, ladies, for coming in and talking about obviously claims and insurance and stuff like that. We will have their information at the end of the video, like we did last time. So if anybody has any questions further than what we talked about, obviously reach out to our girls here and they will be helping you out. So,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good day.